G'day everybody, it's Neil Murray here. I want to talk to you about this album here by the Warumpi Band, Big Name No Blankets. Released 40 years ago in March 1985. It was our debut album and it was done in 4 days, recorded and mixed at Trafalgar Studios in Annandale in Sydney in late 1984. Our band manager at the time, our long-time manager actually, David Cook, had organised us to go there, and of course we did all the songs that we had at the time. The opening track, Waru, is probably my favourite co-write with George ever, and it came to us while being in Wave Hill. It would have been early '84 sometime. We were touring through there. That's Kalkaringi now. We were sitting in the front seat of the high-ass tour van, and I'd had this riff, probably influenced by the Police a lot. Also Gordon, the drummer, had been listening to the Police, especially Stuart Copeland's drumming, his kick patterns and things. And I remember sitting in the front seat and having this riff and playing the riff and having the idea about fire. And I said to George, can we write a song about fire? And he just started writing out these verses in Gumatj. And I had the idea of some sort of chant with a chorus, but the main thing it was built on was this opening riff. And so on. And I remember he said, well, the Gumatj word for fire is gutha. And I'm thinking, gee, that's going to be hard to chant, to sing, you know. I said, I knew the literature word was waru, and I said, can we use waru in the chorus? And he said, yeah, no worries. So that's how the waru thing came about. And it was the opening track on the album, and it really announced us as something different, something new. I think it's a tremendous intro. And the other thing about it, I remember in the studio there was a Vox amp, and I've never seen one the same as it since, but it wasn't an AC30, but I plugged into it and it just had the creamiest, richest sound. So we used that amp for the whole entire album. Anyway, here's a little bit of Waru for you. And of course, perhaps the signature song from this album is Blackfella Whitefella. And again, it's just something that was floating around in the air. I particularly remember doing an early show in Jay Creek. This is even before George arrived as our lead singer. And meeting Isaac Yama, who was a Pitjantjatjara singer-songwriter, and he was doing songs in Pitjantjatjara in his own language, and we'd had a bit of a jam down in the creek before setting up, and as I was setting up, taking in the gear to set up in the hall, he touched me on the arm and he said, that's your skin colour. He said, you got the same heart like us. And I was like, wow, really, you know. And it was a wonderful affirmation. I thought, how could he know me like that? And it gave me confidence to think, well, I could write songs, you know, for this band. And I fleshed out some lyrics, and I remember getting this riff, just this... your colour, and that's the central idea in the song, and it just seemed like that was what I was experiencing, and it's what the elders were instructing us with. And I remember showing it to Sammy, and he said, we've got to do this, you know, we're all living together now, we've got to get along. And so it's a quintessential Warumpi Band song, really, and the message is still relevant. It'll never get old. And before recording it, we had to run it by George because he's going to have to sing it. And George specifically said, we've got to put Yellowfellow in there. So that's in the second verse. And the method we were going through recording was that we had Sammy playing bass and me on the rhythm guitar for this track. And we lay down the bed and, you know, with the vocals. And then Sammy would overdub guitars, extra guitars. So he's got these lovely embellishments and solo work in that tune. And I remember sitting with the engineer, Alan Thorne, and Sammy would do something and Alan wasn't quite ready. I said, look, whenever you roll, just go red, because he's not going to repeat what he does. He just comes out of him spontaneously. So we took that approach, and as soon as we were playing a track and Sammy was having his first run at it, it was usually the best things he'd just come up with. But anyway, here's a bit of Blackfella Whitefella.
We need more brothers if we're to make it. We need more sisters if we're to save it. Are you the one who's gonna stand up and be counted? Are you the one who's gonna be there when we shout it? Are you the one who's always ready with a helping hand? Are you the one who understands this family plan? Black fella, white fella, yellow fella, any fella, it doesn't matter what you color, as long as you a true fella.
Yeah, well, Sit Down Money was a song made up or inspired by a riff Sammy was playing on bass one day when we were just jamming. He had this and once again I thought, hey, that's a good little riff. And so Sit Down Money is a euphemism for the dole or unemployment benefits, and that young people were on at the time. Not many people could get jobs, so that's how that song arose. Gotta Be Strong was again out of a riff that I heard Sammy and his brother Gordon on drums playing in the hall one afternoon just as I'd arrived to set up for practice, and they were already jamming on this riff, and Sammy was playing this bass groove and Gordon had a solid feel, and I thought, just keep it going, keep it going. I'm trying to get my amp in and plug in so I could play with them.
Every one of us, we gotta be strong to take care of this country.
And so we had that riff, and we didn't really have the words until we got in the studio, and then we just thought, well, we've got that riff, let's make something out of it. And so with George, we worked up some words that he could sing and say over it. So that rounds off the album, really. Anyway, Warumpi Band, big name, no blankets, 40 years ago today, and at the time it was dismissed as being a bit too raw. Ironically, nowadays that unproduced or less produced sort of sound of a live band is something that's has its own aesthetic, and people actually appreciate that a lot more than the mid-80s, when a lot of music was very heavily produced with big drum sounds and keyboard, washes of keyboard and affected guitars and everything. So it's really us as we sounded back then, as the original lineup sounded, and our first collection of songs, and still going strong.